go. Here we 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 go.
Woo.
It's Thursday.
That's a good one. You know what Thursday means, don't you?
Thursday is Containers from the Couch's Friday.
Exactly.
That's what that means.
I couldn't have said it better. So excited. TGI Thursday.
Yes. You know what? I think we're actually, you and I'm just going to make the call. We're going 4-day work weeks. I think I'm just going to say it.
We probably shouldn't have said it out loud online.
Damn it, my fault.
Yeah. If you're my boss, he was joking. So sorry.
It's all a joke. So welcome to Containers from the Couch. So if you've been with us this week, we've been talking all things CDK. We deployed an app to ECS. It was a queue app, queue-based service. In 10 lines of CDK code, we got a queue, a VPC, all the goodies, all the boilerplate. And it deployed our service to ECS with auto scaling, everything built in out of the box. We created a pipeline with the CDK for that same app the next day. Then,
by the way, sorry, just real quick. Wasn't that also that ECS app running on Fargate?
Oh, yeah. Did I not mention Fargate? Yeah.
I mean, I think someone reached out and asked us, hey, can you show us deploying an app to Fargate? And I think that's what we did, right, on Monday?
That's a good point. So we did it to ECS Fargate. We did get a request to do it to EKS Fargate.
Oh, that's the part I missed. Okay.
So which we will do because we want to do, we want to make sure we're talking about things people want to hear about. But so we built the pipeline, and then on Wednesday we unboxed the Terraform CDK program, and it was
CDKTF.
CDKTF. And which is great, and that was cool. So we were able to take CDK code and compile it to Terraform, and then deploy our code to Terraform. We created a simple ECS cluster, deployed a basic Nginx app. Today, now we're going to end the week with deploying, generating our Kubernetes manifest YAMLs using CDK8s.
Exactly. And excuse me. Let's just say, let's get it out there right now. We all know we hate YAML. We don't hate it as much as JSON, but yes, we hate YAML. Acknowledged, and we can now move on. So hopefully with this CDK8s project, we can see perhaps how we might be moving past YAML and moving past writing YAML.
Yes, and CDK8s is, I believe, still it's alpha. It's an alpha project, but
welcome back, NetHole. By the way, I love YAML. Okay, fine, I hate it, but I hate it much less than JSON. So yeah,
I love that, and I agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like it's way better than JSON, but frankly, nested YAML, these giant YAML templates, they get pretty tough to read as time goes on.
Exactly. And then NetHole also asked for the link for CDK to Terraform, and here's a blog post about it with all kinds of links inside. And then I think if you just look for CDKTF and -CLI, that should land you in the right spot.
And if you want to see us build it, just watch the video from yesterday.
Oh yeah, exactly. And also, while we're at it, let me push my button here. Bam. How do you find the video from yesterday? Well, here's a link, bit.ly/containers from the couch, and it'll take you to our video archive where you can see all of the videos from yesterday and prior days, and watch us live there. You can even chat there. You can set alerts for upcoming shows, because as we schedule out, by the way, we will have to work Friday, because Friday is when we decide what to talk about for the next week. So, so yeah, sorry. No summer Fridays for you.
Damn.
But anyway, as we schedule things out, when we schedule the show, it'll actually pop up onto the YouTube channel a link for it in advance that you can set a reminder for. So I noticed today, for example, the push notification for Twitch didn't go out. At least I didn't get it. But that's because of how Twitch notifications work. So if you're subscribed to us over on YouTube, then you would get a push notification that way instead. And it would be dedicated to us. So it should always go out.
Perfect. Yeah, so subscribe, right? Subscribe to that YouTube channel.
I mean, I don't want to be one of those people that in every YouTube video
smash the subscribe button.
So I'm not saying that, but I am saying there's a way for you to get alerts, and you should check that out.
Man, that's so true. Like like I'm gonna start now just to piss you off. Every time we start the show, I'm gonna say subscribe down below. Hit the button.
You gotta make the big smash sound, and then there's a button, I think a bell, so you have to make the bell sound too for getting alerts.
We're going from like containers, topics to being like cheesy radio hosts at that point, but I'm okay with it. I'll take it. Okay. So getting back on track.
Yes, thank you.
We're gonna build some YAML using the CDK8s. And I think we should just really get into it. Now, couple upfront items here. I have an EKS cluster built. Okay, so that's up and running. I'm not using CDK to build anything right now, so I just have my EKS cluster. And what I'm going to do is, if you've followed any of our workshops, ECS workshop, EKS workshop, and then, hey there. Oh, hey, yeah, see, we get the regulars. I love it.
I know, right? Welcome back, Satya.
So
I always question, am I saying that right or not? And I have no idea. Tell me if I'm not, or if I am.
Yeah.
I have no idea how you could tell me how to say it if I'm not saying it right. So maybe just don't tell me. Oh, sweet. Yes, completely right.
Perfect. That works out.
Nice.
So, oh man. Just losing my train of thought left and right here.
Sorry, it's Friday. I mean, or it's our Friday, so that's why.
Right, exactly. It's just, but yeah. So I have my cluster built. So we're gonna just build templates. Now, if you followed our workshops, ECS, EKS workshop, any of our 2 workshops, you know that we in the workshop deploy a 3-tier web app. And what I'm gonna do is take one of those applications, a Node.js backend service, and I have the existing YAML that we use to deploy to Kubernetes. I'm going to translate that into CDK8s code via Python, and then we're going to watch as CDK synthesizes it. And another thing, I got to tell you, listen, I'm very open about saying I don't know everything. There's a lot I don't know. And a friend of mine, Stephen Braverman, Brent, I think you met him before. Good guy, good friend of mine.
I think I do remember.
We had dinner at reInvent in Vegas.
I don't remember that, but we've
had many
whole different reasons.
But anyway, so he was telling me, he was watching the show. He's like, someone had asked about documentation. Like, what do you do when the documentation's rough? Hey,
ladies and gentlemen,
here.
Stephen Braverman.
My good friend, Stephen. But anyways, he was saying, don't you use the help the help function in Python? And I'm like, no, I don't use that, because I was grepping yesterday in the code. He's like, yeah, you got to use the help method. Anyways, I'm going to call that function in a bit and show you how, if there's lack of docs, how you can read the actual class via Python to make it easy. So, Stephen, you saved my life with that one. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, so I think it's time to get the share going. And are you going to make me do it, Brent?
No, I can do it. So we got to kick the couch out of the way. And wait, you aren't sharing.
Oh, that's why. I was like, what's going on here? Again, the Friday.
Here we go.
There it is.
Nice.
Okay. Man. Okay. So first things first, I want to show you the YAML that came with the ECS demo Node.js backend service. So this is the YAML. Now, if I get cloned,
it looks all too familiar.
All right. This was your life for so long.
Yes, this is what made me hate YAML so much.
So I clone the repo, and then if you go to this repo, and again, you can access this from the workshop. It's a publicly available GitHub repository here. So I go to Kubernetes, and just to prove to you, we have two YAML files here. We have a deployment YAML and a service YAML. That's what these are here. So just doing a quick run through on the YAMLs, you see we have a deployment and a service. So these are our manifests. We have our labels, our name of our service to make sure that our deployment and our service to make sure that they can sync on deployment. And then we just have kind of basic stuff here. We have a strategy set for rolling updates on a new deployment, as well as the spec of what container image we want to pull down, what port we want to run on. Pretty straightforward. And then with our service YAML, it's even easier. We're just simply exposing the ports. Pretty simple, right?
Yep.
But it's YAML. And at the end of the day, realistically, as you start to incorporate, and we'll talk about this in a little bit when we talk about CDK8s Plus, which, I think with naming things, we confuse things sometimes. But with CDK8s Plus, we do our best. With CDK8s Plus,
I'm just glad it wasn't plus plus. So,
well, but maybe it will be in the next iteration. We don't know.
It might be.
But we'll talk about some of the features with CDK8s Plus that will make a lot of this even easier. Okay, so that's that. One thing to look at is there's a site for CDK8s, CDK8s.io. So CDK8s.io. And this is a great place to get started, walks through the project. One thing to also mention, Brent, this is not exclusive to EKS. The CDK8s is Kubernetes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So almost everything that we talk about on the show and in eksworkshop.com and everywhere else that we talk about this kind of thing, when we talk about Kubernetes, we're talking about straight up vanilla Kubernetes. So there are occasionally some things that are specific to AWS and specific to EKS, but this isn't one of them. So you could totally adopt CDK8s and use it for your on-premise Kubernetes cluster, or maybe your KOPS cluster, or a cluster running somewhere else. You could totally get away from YAML wherever you happen to operate, and this is equally beneficial to everybody. Also, it's fully open sourced, so feel free to contribute to it. And open issues with requests or issues that are fixing code. Pull requests are always welcome. So definitely take advantage of that. It's still young. In fact, are we calling this GA today or no? Yeah. So no. Still very young, but that's good. That means you're getting in on the ground floor, right? So it's good to start tracking it now and see how it progresses.
You totally just tried to have us be the Werner Vogels and announce it like it's GA today. Like that was cool. Except it's not.
No, that was a question mark at the end of my sentence.
Okay. All right.
So it may have been hard to hear, but yeah, for sure I was just asking because I can't remember if we talk about this stuff so much internally and dates and when things are going to happen that I barely remembered that today was Thursday and not Friday. So it's whether or not it's GA or not is hard for me to track.
Yeah, totally understandable. And so one thing I want to just link you to is, so the website, CDK8s.io, and then also for CDK8s Plus. So CDK8s is a way to define Kubernetes objects, okay, and in code and have them synthesize or compile into your Kubernetes YAML templates, okay, your YAML manifests. So these, I will say with CDK8s, you have to still know Kubernetes. Like I don't think as someone who's never used Kubernetes before coming into CDK8s, you're going to have to understand the basic constructs of a deployment, of a service, You just can't get away from that.
You're still going to have to know the objects and how they all interrelate, that, a service routes traffic into a deployment of pods and stuff like that. Right?
Exactly. Now, with CDK8s Plus, and the truth is, I didn't really build a demo around this. I just had started working with it. But this is taking that next level. So this week, you've heard us talk a million times about higher level constructs in the CDK. So that same concept is coming to CDK8s Plus. So all of the boilerplate starts to be abstracted away. So you're eventually, I see the CDK8s Plus as being so high level that I simply say, here's my container, here's the port I want to expose it on, and then maybe a couple other things. Here's a volume I want to mount. And the CDK8s Plus is actually going to compile that into a full-fledged YAML manifest with everything I need. So the goal is to get to the point where you just really have to, you want to say, here's my container, here's the port it runs on, here's some additional things, build everything. I just want it done and then get it deployed. So
would it also build the cluster if it needed to?
Good question. So the CDK8s will not. CDK8s' sole job is to build Kubernetes manifests. CDK, however, and this is where these kind of like come meet at the intersection here. While they look a little different, right? So the objects you're going to call in CDK will be different from CDK8s. You can still be programming in the same language, and you can create your infrastructure using the CDK and then create all your Kubernetes manifests with CDK8s. So rather than, let's say in a world of AWS, Kubernetes, EKS, you have to manage a cluster, maybe S3 resources, databases in RDS. So rather than having CloudFormation in one place, YAML for your Kubernetes templates in another, everything's in TypeScript or everything's in Python. So Sweet. That's kind of how it would work. Okay, so let's.
We did get a question on the YouTube channel, so let's. While you're prepping for the next section, maybe I can field the question. Sorry for oh, by the way, hey Rad, or Rod? Well, I don't know. Sorry for a not so off-topic question. I'm experiencing a 1-minute waiting time for my pods in pending state deployed on my EKS plus Fargate. I think it's because of spinning a host for my pods, right? So Fargate is the reason for that, and yes, it's basically provisioning the infrastructure to host your pods. The upside is your pods run completely isolated inside their own VM. So from a security perspective, that's pretty amazing. The downside, though, is if you think about all the stuff that has to happen under the covers, we bring up a VM, then we attach an ENI to it that's dedicated to AWS VPC networking, then we populate it with IP addresses, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that has to happen, and it's a lot more than pop up a container, on an already existing host that already has an ENI attached to it. That said, the Fargate team is constantly working to get those times down. And, what you're seeing is a marked improvement over what it was when we first launched Fargate. So exactly. There's always improvements happening. So as long as you can tolerate the time that you're seeing now, then you can know it's only going to get better from here. So hopefully that's okay.
Yeah, cool. Let me zoom in on the font here.
Nice. Yes. So you saw what I said. That's awesome.
Yeah. So okay. So we're getting back to getting started here. So Python 3.7 is a requirement once again. I tried to not follow the prerequisites and say, hey, I have Python 3.6 installed. Didn't work. I had to use Python 3.7. Again, I try to be a renegade when I can.
It's good to check these things.
Yeah.
Keep them honest.
So that's exactly it. So Python 3.7. So I have that installed. Also pipenv as well. And I npm installed CDK8s CLI.
Sweet. So, Steve, thank you. Endorsement. My Fargate task used to take a little over 2 minutes to come up. Now within 1 minute. Fargate is awesome. And yeah, and totally, like, how many times have you had to go and patch an operating system since moving to Fargate? I mean, that to me, that's the best part. Forget the deployment times and the extra few seconds that it takes, but the days and weeks that I would spend, having to drop everything because a 0 day was discovered and I have to go and like patch a whole bunch of stuff and reboot the data center. Yeah, don't have to do that anymore. So that's pretty great.
And it's funny to think about. I think we get hung up oftentimes on these things, like it takes 1 minute to come up. But what we don't think about is the bigger picture of the savings in patching, in operating system management, in just securing that operating system and my virtual machines and all that.
Yeah.
So you have
There's
to look at
also
the big picture.
Yeah, and furthering what you're saying, there's also like it's almost a sign of how healthy your environment is, or maybe not healthy, but how um, advanced your environment is. If you're still watching the deploys and timing, how long. I mean, the only reason you know that it takes 60 seconds or 90 seconds or 120 seconds is because you're watching it, right? So the really robust environments that have super advanced CI well, I guess specifically CD, they don't even watch. The developer pushes code and that's the end. And stuff just happens in the background without anyone really noticing. And it's only when, things go horribly wrong does a human even, look up to see what's happening. So um, I think hey, Nathan Peck, welcome. Uh,
Whoa,
I
whoa.
know, right?
Oh man.
Uh, so yeah, I think there's a little bit of let's get that get to that stage where we don't even have to watch, and then those seconds aren't really gonna matter to us.
Oh man, I so agree. Um, okay, so one thing I wanted to just do is I deployed the pods. I deployed a service for the ECS demo Node.js app. Okay, this was the YAML that we've already had generated. So as you can see, here's my pods, kubectl get deployment, and you can see there's my app I just deployed 45 seconds ago. Okay,
Nice.
this was
Okay.
YAML that we generated by hand and had a great time doing. Now, let's go back and have some more fun, and let's start building because we've been talking way too much.
True. Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh no,
All
we
right.
have.
So similar to how you run CDK with AWS CloudFormation as the backend or as the assembly code, you're going to run a CDK8s. Okay, so it's CDK8s. And then let's see if we can get a help command here. You can initialize a new project. You can run a synth. So CDK8s will not deploy your Kubernetes manifest. You still have to kube control apply. Okay, so that's still something you have to do, but that gives you the power, if you're a GitOps person,
Yes.
that you use CDKs to generate your YAMLs. Then it gets uploaded into a Git repository, and then let's say you have Flux,
Yes.
something that's monitoring your repository for updates to any of your particular apps, automatically deploys them for you.
Exactly. You just check that in, man. Just, have it generated, get checked in. Maybe it's checked in a branch and you still want to code review it or something like that. I love pushing stuff into a Git workflow because it's just so robust and so simple. I can do I can do everything that I want to do on the command line using a CLI, or I can go to, if I tend to use GitHub, so I can go to GitHub and do a whole bunch of stuff through that UI as well. So the fact that it doesn't just take it and run with it is actually cool because I want to be able to use GitOps and I want to be able to sort of pair this up and make it the best tool for doing the one thing that it does, which is generate the YAML for me.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And by the way, just imagine the power that's going to come with this once we start releasing ACK,
Can we talk
AWS
about
controller.
that? Can we talk about that?
Didn't we the other day? I thought we could.
Okay, then we can. I say that we can talk about it. So
Okay.
yeah, what is ACK, Adam?
This is the AWS controller for Kubernetes, right? Did I say it right?
I think you did. Yeah, AWS controllers for Kubernetes, maybe,
Okay.
or maybe the controller for Kubernetes. One of those two. We'll find out when it gets released. But yeah, it's going to be another open source project. So the ultimate goal is if you want to stay within the Kubernetes ecosystem and video home. Try refresh. Oh wait, no.
I think we're good.
Okay, we're good. Yeah. NetHole, try refreshing. But anyway, ACK will be something that if you wanted to stay completely within the Kubernetes ecosystem and manage your AWS infrastructure using Kubernetes YAML, you'll be able to do that. So imagine, like Adam was talking about, using CDK8s or CDK8s Plus, generating YAML that goes out and builds AWS infrastructure for you.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So now you're really centralizing all of your, Kubernetes becomes kind of your source of truth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, that can
anyways,
be really cool.
it's going to get more and more powerful as time goes on. Okay. Back to
Hey,
CDKs. Yes.
wait.
Not back to CDKs.
Yeah, I just remembered if you have not signed up for, in fact, go ahead, Adam. I'm going to bring that up at our next little interlude because I have to like find a link to be able to share with people.
Okay. All right. Brent just put out a little teaser there. So
Sorry.
that was good. It's going to keep people in the show. Okay. So I read a CDK synth. Let me first look at my code. So very similar to how I build my CDK templates. I'm inheriting a class from CDK8s. In this case, it's called chart. So if you've seen me deploy CDK and build CDK, you'll see oftentimes that is a construct or a stack. So chart is ultimately the high level component that is what is building all of your manifest YAML files. Don't let that be confusing with a Helm chart. Don't be confused because it's not there, but there is Helm chart support built into CDK8s as well.
That is confusing. We apologize.
It's hard. There's so much to build and do.
Okay. There are
Okay.
only so many words.
Exactly. So, all right. But again, so just very similar to how I'm doing, I'm defining I pass in scope and I'm ready to build my CDK8s application. So I'm going to start with setting my labels. So in the Kubernetes world, with my deployment YAML, my service YAML, I need labels to connect all the components together. So I'm going to start with just setting a label, pretty basic. And the label is just going to be app, ECS demo, Node.js. Running a CDK8 synth on that, you can see it outputted to the dist directory with a YAML file. If I go to cat that right now, there's not going to be anything in it because I haven't defined any code. Okay. So let's start by building a service. And so I have this commented here. I'm going to walk through what we're doing. So we're calling the service object. And within our service object, this is what is going to build our service YAML. Okay, this is what's going to define our Kubernetes service. And within your service, you have a spec. I want to pass in what ports I want the service to run on or to be exposed on. And also, I want to make sure that I set the label. So that's pretty much all I've done. And the goal is I want to have this Python code generate into this YAML. Okay. And I'm going to say one thing here. Look, at the end of the day, right now, when I look at my Python code versus my YAML, they're kind of the same length. There's not a whole lot of difference, but I can test my Python code. I can unit test it. I can make it a little more parameterized and bundle this into a construct. So if I have multiple teams that are all building Kubernetes services and there's a common pattern, I can build a construct around this that other teams can reuse. So they don't necessarily have to have all this. They can just have a simple object that they create, that maybe they just pass in a couple parameters, and I do all the heavy lifting here.
Also, think about the possibility, like, I think it was earlier this week, you deployed a queue consumer. Imagine if you had 100 queues, you could still use you probably are still using the same consumer code, and you're just passing in like a different, environment variable or something like that to tell it which queue to come up and listen on, or listen to, whatever. Anyway, being able to do that, with a loop inside your code would be so easy, and it could just spit out, all the YAML, different YAML objects that you need. So that's where I think you're really going to see a lot of benefit.
Yeah, there's a lot of power here.
So since we're at a good stopping point,
yes,
I got to say, if you didn't know this, the EU KubeCon is happening August 18th, I think, starting August 18th. And as usual, we have a 0-day event the day prior. So August 17th, we're going to be running a container day. And it's going to be full of announcements and demos and stuff like that. If you attended our C3 event earlier, the Container Cloud Conference, it's going to be very similar to that. And another thing about it is it's not going to be in the EU time zone. So we're going to be running it in US time. You can sign up at this URL, awscontainerday.splashthat.com, to be reminded of it. It's completely free. And then if you wanted that to lead you into KubeCon, you can totally sign up for KubeCon. It's just, be aware, KubeCon is going to be, since it's European, it's going to be happening during European hours. So, but definitely sign up for AWS Container Day, the 0-day before KubeCon, especially if you're interested in Kubernetes, because we're going to have the whole EKS team there. Well, not the whole team, but we're going to have a lot of people from EKS there talking to us about the latest and greatest happening with EKS.
Yes. There it is. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay. So now I've defined my service in code. Okay. So we have our service spec. And as you can see, I've mentioned this with the CDK before, oftentimes the inputs to the parameters of a class involve other objects that I'm passing in. So I'm calling other classes, like the service spec class for service port. And these are just basically helper classes to help generate the proper code for us and the proper YAML. So going down to the bottom here, just like
question.
CDK. Yes.
Why is service port a number but target port a string?
Let's see.
Or port and target port?
So it's not. So we can check this actually to see if it's required. It may not be. But this is an object to essentially a method to help us convert something to a string, or it's telling the CDK8s that what we're passing into this parameter is either a string or an integer. But that's a good point. I don't know why.
Or string. I thought, I have super tiny view, and I was reading that as into string, but I see now it's int or string.
Got it. Yeah. And so this is one of those kind of strange methods that's there. But anyways, hey,
Joel Mang's back. Welcome back.
Got the whole crew here. So, okay. So that's that. And, but it's a good point, Brent. I actually don't know why I'm using it here and not on the port. So we'll check that in a moment.
Yeah, just curious.
Okay. So we're going to instantiate our CDK8s app. Then we're going to call our CDK8s chart class, which is going to be ECS demo node.js. And then we're going to synthesize it. Synthesize, again, is going to output our YAML. So we're going to do CDK8s synth. And assuming I don't break anything, we should get a template. So let's take a look at that. ECS demo. Here. Reload. Okay. So I think we're good. Okay. So if we compare these two, okay, so this is the YAML that you've generated in the workshop. And here is the YAML that CDK8s generated for my service. So looks pretty good.
Yeah, selector, scroll app. Yeah, that's right. Ports, TCP 803000. That's right. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Let's try it. Let's try it getting rid of int to string. I don't want the show to turn into Brent reviews Adam's code or anything, but I'm just curious.
I'm curious too, actually. So let's see. And I bet you I did do this and I just forgot. Let's see. Okay. So I'm just changing it to that. And then we're going to CDK8 synth. And it's going to break because it expected the object reference. So for some reason, port is okay with an integer, but target port wants me to pass in the object declaring it's an integer. I don't know.
I feel like we might be able to use that somehow. Like the object might come from another, like maybe the load balancer object or the ingress object or something like that, maybe.
Maybe.
If we were doing it that way, which right now we're not.
Okay. So that's that. We have our service. It's pretty good. Let's look at our deployment YAML, our deployment manifest here. And you can see very similar. We have labels. So we want to make sure that the selector is going to match the labels for our service, right? So we expect that our service, our deployment YAML is going to have this same configuration. Then we have a strategy. We have a rolling update strategy. Okay, so this is when we deploy a new update to our service or our deployment. What does that rollout process look like?
Yep.
And then, of course, the spec itself, which points to our container and the container port. Okay, so that's the YAML that we've generated by hand. And now we're going to look at I'm sorry that I'm not live coding this and I'm just, uncommenting. But, this is, anyway, I just wanted to make sure I didn't spend an hour grepping code.
Right.
Like I did the other day. Okay. So let's walk through our deployment code. So we're calling the deployment spec. So again, we're just creating an object for our deployment spec. I'm saying 3 replicas. I think up here we have 1, but I want 3.
Yeah.
Another thing is our selector. If you remember up here, we wanted to make sure we matched labels. So I am matching the labels to our label variable up here, which is just a dictionary of app is ECS demo node.js.
Cool.
And then we have our deployment strategy. So we want a rolling update. Here's our surge. Here is our max unavailable. So I'm defining the same parameters there. And then lastly, our container spec. So this is very simple, very straightforward. Here's my container name. Here's the image. Here are the ports I want to run on.
Nice.
That's it. So now what we should see is when I run a CDK synth again, and if I open up that YAML, we'll now see 2. Go ahead.
We have our service, we have our deployment, and that's probably it. Yeah, that's all we need.
Yep. That's all we have here. So if we just do a side-by-side, though I don't specify namespace here, so I think it's just going to deploy to the default namespace.
Yeah, I don't think
automatically.
I do have namespace default. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's more of just like a learning thing, right? Just more so than necessity, because that's a default value. So we have our spec, which replicas 3. I have replicas 1 here. I can change it to 1 if it makes you happy.
It doesn't actually. I
Okay.
prefer 3.
Good. All right, perfect. So, and then we're matching our labels. So ECS demo Node.js, there it is. Same thing. We have our strategy with our rolling update. I feel like you're going to say something.
No.
Okay. When you're ready, I'll be here.
Okay.
So, and then lastly, we have our spec where we are defining our containers. And in this case, as you may or may not know, when you're working with a pod definition, you can have one container, you can have multiple containers as a part of your pod spec. So
Yeah. Diff-U for nice comparison, by the way, from we need to just have Steve on here instead of you, maybe.
By the way, I just want you to know Steven can grow the most glorious mustache. Okay.
Did we
Him and I,
do the mustache counter?
what are we 4 days? Is it
Let's check. Sure enough. Yeah.
the mustache counter?
I think now we can actually call it 4.5 days since we're halfway through the show.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. So 4.5 days of the mustache. Steven and I actually did we did a talk at Jenkins World a couple years back, and we both had the mustaches to match. It was pretty amazing.
Nice. We might have to have him on as a guest star. If you can keep this going next week, then maybe we'll have to have him drop in, and we'll have a mustache off.
I just don't think it's fair. His mustache was glorious.
Nice.
So
we did have one question. I think it probably is because of our usage of the word chart, unfortunately. Can you create Helm charts directly?
Yes, you absolutely can create Helm charts with CDK8s. In this example, I'm not, but I do kind of wonder. I think with CDK8s, I guess Helm charts there's a lot of value there, but I could see a lot of the things you would do with a Helm chart, you could also do with CDK8s. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I picture Helm charts and their usefulness as far as me creating them as using them for their templating engine and having values for different environments be different and just drop in those values into a template. And I feel like I could probably do that directly in CDK8s without having to build Helm charts. But at the same time, I acknowledge that there are probably enterprise level organizations where you might have to hand something off to someone else. So you might be building something that you need to give to them, and Helm chart might be the better thing to give to someone else. Whereas giving them, app.py, they might not know what to do with that. So I totally get that.
Great point. Yeah, and it's again there's value in both, but I think that's why really any Kubernetes object, I believe there's just a direct mapping with CDK8s. So if it's an object in Kubernetes, it's something that you can create with CDK8s. I don't want to be quoted on that, even though this will be recorded, but there's a lot you can do with it. So
that was off the record, folks.
Off the record, we're going to actually black out that portion of the video. Okay. So now I'm going to apply. So we see my YAMLs look great, right? It matches.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
It built everything that we've written by hand.
They're every bit as pretty as my YAMLs.
Exactly. So I'm just going to apply. Okay. And so I've applied the service and the deployment. So now if I kubectl get, so we see services, I have the one I deployed earlier. Mm-hmm. And I also have the ECS demo Node.js CDK service. So kubectl get pods. And we can see I have my 3 CDK8s, the services deployed. And just to exec, let's actually exec into, I'm going to exec into both pods here, and we'll just do a curl localhost 3000. Great. So it responded hello. And now the old app, when I say old app, I just mean
please work. Please work.
Are you just worried that CDK8s is going to outdo you?
I'm always worried when someone else is running my code.
That's fair. I feel you on that. There you go. It worked.
Yes.
So we had our existing YAMLs. I deployed that service. I was able to access those pods, and using CDK, I was able to build those same templates, but build them using Python. So it's programmatic. I can test. I can do all sorts of, functional loops. I think there's so much I could do with Python compared to just straight YAML. I don't know if you've ever dealt with like YAML inheritance. I don't think that people really do that in the Kubernetes world, but it just reminded me of the salt stack days when I had like this crazy YAML inheritance. Steven would probably actually remember that.
Or maybe he's blocked it. PTSD.
Right. I don't wish that upon anybody.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea.
It's just awful. It's awful. But that's it. So that was pretty cool. It's a pretty simple demo. But what we were able to do was instead of having to think about YAML, we think about Python.
Yeah.
Steven had therapy over it. Yes, he gets it. And by the way, Steven, earlier I'd mentioned a diff-u. I am using Cloud9. So I have some pretty nifty functionality in here where I can have 2 terminals open, multiple columns of different files. So that's what I'm using here.
A cloud-based IDE. It's actually really nice. And if this is the first time you've watched the show, then just know is yours running Ubuntu or is it running Amazon Linux? You get the choice, but I don't know what you ended up picking.
I believe this is
OS-release?
OS-release. Wow. It's been a while. Amazon Linux, this particular one. But you can do Ubuntu as well.
But yeah, so you get the choice, Amazon Linux or Ubuntu. And otherwise, it's, Linux, but it's running available for you inside your AWS account. So it's awesome. You should check it out. And one of the best use cases for it is build a Cloud9 per project. So like don't build like an Uber customized environment that is always yours and you're having to switch stuff around, because instead just open up the Cloud9 that is dedicated to whichever project you plan to work on, and that way you can have all the right Python packages and all the right everything ready to go. And if you had different credentials or anything like that, it's very project oriented. And then you close it down, 30 minutes later it goes to sleep and you stop paying for it. And meanwhile, you're in your other project working away. So it's really cool.
Yes. Okay, so one other thing I want to touch on here is CDK8s Plus for just a moment.
Yes.
And so you could see, again, my excuse me, my definitions here, it's still not like, all the things I brag about when I talk about the CDK. 10 lines of code gets me 674 lines of cloud formation. It'll get there because remember, this is a very early alpha project. But with CDK8s Plus, it's going to you're going to start to see more and more helper methods come out. And these helper methods are what's going to make the Kubernetes specific knowledge slowly kind of get abstracted away from the user deploying.
That's right. Sensible defaults and built-in opinion. I think that's what CDK8s Plus is going to bring to the table.
Exactly. And, an example is when you go through, so this is the blog, and I think we shared this. We'll post this in the chat. But the ability to, when you create a config map, like if I'm not a Kubernetes user, I don't really know what a config map is, and that can be confusing. But I know I have a file that I need to share across multiple services, but I don't really know, or a configuration that I need to share across multiple services. I don't know how to do that outside of, just manually updating it. Well, with something like CDK8s Plus, there's a helper function that you can call. So this is just an example of I can have my deployment or my service, and then I just simply call add file, and behind the scenes, it's going to create that config map configuration for me without me having to even know what a config map is. So I think that's where you're going to see this go. And I don't know if Nathan Peck is still here, but one thing Nathan Peck has done with the CDK project for ECS is abstract a lot of boilerplate and these high level, having these high level constructs like a load balance service and all these things. And the evolution has gone from that to something that's coming very soon. And listen, this is public knowledge because it's a pull request. It's not like, yeah, I think it is. Sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, Nathan Peck. Actually, maybe I shouldn't. But anyways, the idea is, I think with CDK, we're moving to more of just these helper methods where it's, I have a component and I want to add a load balancer. I want to add a file. I want to add an app mesh virtual service. I want to create the virtual service from this. So the idea is to abstract you further and further away from all the boilerplate and to make it as easy as possible programmatically to just get what you need without having to be an expert in everything, because it's hard.
Yep.
Right.
That's pretty incredible. And CDK8s and CDK8s Plus, they're definitely going to get there. Right now, it's object for object. So, but very soon, it's going to be these higher level constructs that we'll be able to just say, give me a Fargate load balanced service and have that launch out onto EKS with Fargate backed containers. So that's going to be really awesome.
And like this, for example, it's just one more example. I don't want to necessarily understand all the components of a service YAML. I don't really know. So I could just simply take my deployment YAML, and I could just call the .expose function, .expose method. Here's my port, and CDK8s Plus is going to figure out everything else, specifying the container port, ensuring that it's accessible, and so on. So
that'll be awesome.
That's pretty much it for the demo today. I hope we had fun.
I had fun. I hope everyone else had fun. And I think everyone should take tomorrow off. I said it's okay. And join us back here on Monday. And we're going to start tackling some new stuff. We'll let CDK breathe for a bit. And then we're going to tackle... I know we have some EKS stuff in the works, so I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll really plan it out tomorrow. Also, don't forget, sign up for Container Day, awscontainerday.splashthat.com, and join us there. Adam and I are going to have 2 or 3 live sessions where we do live Q&A from the audience about stuff that we've been talking about. So definitely join in to be able to ask questions about the presentations and stuff. And yeah,
I think that's it. Shoot, I have a couple more minutes. There's something I want to do really quick. There was someone that had asked a question yesterday, and I talked about it, is, if you don't have sufficient documentation, how can you get more details? Have to show this really quick, because this was this to me is just a game changer. And again, I program in Python all the time. I just become set in my ways, and I don't look for these things to help me. So there's this help function, and I'm going to do help on K8s.service. And again, this was what my friend Steven had showed me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to run a CDK8s synth. And I just want to show you, this actually gives me the class definition, the inputs, tells me the attributes available, any method. I mean,
that's pretty awesome. It's way really easier, nice. Way easier than what you did yesterday, where you opened up the massive file and it was all one line and you had to sit there and grep through it.
It was crazy, right? It was really crazy. So this is one way. Another way I also troubleshoot things is I may call the dir method too. So I may print dir on something to see what objects are available. So what do we got in chat? So
MEPS.
Yeah, this is cool, right? And this is why the community is so important. I got to tell you, because Absolutely. We learn from each other. That's the key here. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I'm going to be using this a lot now. So
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
that's that. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, everyone, join us Monday. And until then, I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.